What I'll do afterwards is I'll go through, I'll clean up the recording to pull out any extra dead space. If there's a section you wanted to go back and re-record because something happened, like an animal came through in the background, or whatever happens with Zoom, we can go back and do that, and then I'll cut and piece it in together to make one continuous clean video at the end. Using Zoom's transcription service, I'll go back and clean up the transcript, and we'll be able to get all of that put together to share with the affinity group members. Are you okay if we put this on the advanced website as well and leave it open to anyone to view?
Let's see how it looks like.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, if my accent looks good or not. I have a little bit of accent, I guess.
Oh, it's not bad.
I don't feel by myself, but other people might feel.
No, I think you'll be fine. So do you have any questions before we get started?
No, I think I just pretend that the timing is there's no time limit. I just do whatever else.
Take as much time as you need.
Yeah. Okay.
What if it gets to be really long? What I might do is clip out some highlights.
Yeah.
To send around and say, if you're interested, then here's more. Here's the link to the full recording.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I will turn it over to you. I'll put myself on mute.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome. This video is about commercialization of academic research results in the perspective from an academic researcher. However, the content is reviewed by Michigan Tech's Office of Innovation and Commercialization for accuracy. To let you know who is speaking, here is my self-introduction. I'm an organic chemist working on commercialization of technologies from my lab. I received NSF I-Corps and SBIR STTR workshop trainings on commercialization. I'm the inventor of several patents. Our project has received funding from NSF's commercialization grants such as I-Corps, PFI, and STTR. However, I need to point out that my group has no funding, has not established any companies or put any products on the market yet. So that's myself. So your research team worked very hard. And now you have a marketable idea, or even better, a marketable research product. And then you might wonder what you should do next. So this presentation is intended to help in that context. Here is a list of things I'm suggesting you to do. The first thing is to contact Michigan Tech's Office of Innovation and Commercialization, which we call OIC here. Its director is Mike, and you might also involve Amtrak director Nate early on at this stage. And then the OIC will help you to disclose your technology to Michigan Tech. And we'll also collaborate with you for some basic market analysis of your invention. They will also help you to establish intellectual property strategies. Normally, it's a combination of patents, trade secrets, and know-how. They will also help you to determine the funding strategies, which is very critical for almost any commercialization projects. And down the road, you will also need to think about which method you are going to use to move your product to the market. Either you use a licensing or start up. So that's the brief list I'm going to talk about. And now I'll do this one by one. So the first is an invention disclosure to Michigan Tech. As a Michigan Tech employee, the IP rights of your invention belong to Michigan Tech, which is good news for you because you will have a lot of resources for you. Michigan Tech will have a lot of resources for you to move your technology to the market. They will help you. And also, as an inventor of the IP, you are going to be rewarded by Michigan Tech. So that's good news. So in order to disclose your invention to Michigan Tech, you will fill an invention disclosure form, which can be found on the OIC's website. On the form, basically, you will provide the names of all the inventors and who funded your research, and provide a brief description of your invention. And in order to disclose, determine whether your invention is going to be patentable or not, you will also provide public disclosure history of your technology. For example, publications and presentations. And you will also be asked to provide your basic vision, preliminary vision of potential customers and competitive technologies which are against of your technology. So that's on the invention disclosure form. Down the list of what I'm going to talk about is to collaborate with OIC for some more market analysis. Your initial market analysis might not be enough. So that means you get more information about potential customers and the market size, whether the market is an existing market or a new market. For market size, I have one thing for academic researchers is that the academic labs alone are usually not a sufficient market for a startup company. That market is too small. I mention this because many academic researchers might think they know this market segment very well because they themselves are the customers. Therefore, if your technology is targeted to this market segment, you really need to be careful and think twice about the market size. The next thing is, what's the competitive advantages of your technology against the existing technologies? Is it a low price, high quality, or new functions? The next thing is even more difficult, which is you need to have a good idea of a profit margin of your product. Commercialization means making money, not a charity or service other people. It's making money. So you have to have a profit margin. In order to determine profit margin, there's a lot of things you need to consider. You don't need to be accurate, but you do need to have a rough idea. So the things you need to know is what's the capital cost and the production costs, which include consumables and labor, and the costs, other costs such as management, marketing, packaging, and shipping. To calculate profit margin, you also need the sales price of your product. And one thing you need to be very careful is that sales price is determined by the market, not by the cost of the production of your product. Another thing you need to pay attention is that the profit margin cannot be estimated using the prices of similar existing products on the market. The reason for that is those products on the market might have a large profit margin. When your product comes to the market, those companies might drastically reduce the price of their products. Finally, you also need to get a thinking about regulatory considerations, such as FDA considerations, regulations, because those things needed to be thought about early on in the commercialization process. Next on my list is intellectual property strategies. There's a lot of ways to protect the intellectual strategy. One is trade secret. To qualify for trade secret, your invention needed to meet 3 requirements. First, the information must have economic value. Then it needs to be unknown to other people. And also you need to make reasonable efforts to keep the secret. The good news is that trade secret is protected by law. Trade secret has significant advantages, which include saving patent costs, which is quite expensive. So trade secret doesn't cost you much like a patent. Another thing for trade secrets is that it can last forever, if not as long as it is not reinvented or reverse engineered by others. However, there are downsides of trade secrets. One is that you need a significant effort to enforce it, which may be more difficult in academia. One reason is that the students who work on your project will need publications for their career development. But even though that's a little bit difficult to enforce in academia, that doesn't mean trade secret is not a useful method for academia. It is still very useful. Another method for intellectual property protection is patent. Using patent, you use a detailed disclosure of your invention for exclusive rights. To qualify for patent, number 1, your invention needs to be useful. Number 2, it needs to be novel. And number 3, it needs to be non-obvious. The advantage, the disadvantage of patents include high patent costs that cost quite some money. And another thing is that there's a time limit for patents, which is only about 20 years. It's not very long. You might think 20 years is very long, but it is not. There's a lot of reasons for I say that. Another thing that makes the patents a little bit difficult, not an ideal way, is that after 2013, when the US patent law is significantly changed, obtaining a reasonably broad claims is becoming more and more challenging. That's the problem. And more broad claims is very important for patents. Otherwise, the patent is not very useful, and it costs money. Still, even though there are some significant drawbacks about patents, it still is a very suitable way for academia to protect their intellectual property. Next on my list is funding strategies, which is a very critical element for the success of almost any commercialization projects. The good news is that there's a lot of funding opportunities for commercialization efforts. I listed several of them here. At Michigan Tech, the OIC can provide some modest amount of fund. Currently, the fund is called REFCMG, Commercialization Milestone Grant. And you can contact the OIC for more information. Their information is also on their website. So you can look at the website or contact the OIC. At the state level, and Michigan State has several grants too, funding opportunities too. One is MTRAC, we talked about that a little bit earlier, and it stands for Michigan Translational Research and Commercialization, you can contact OSC for more information about this commercialization grant. Another one for Michigan State of Michigan is Michigan Economic Development Corporation. They offer university early stage proof of concept fund or advance. This grant is managed by Michigan State University. For more information, you can also contact OIC. At the federal level, there's a lot of opportunity to support commercialization projects. At NSF, the I-Corps team grant can provide 50K for entrepreneurship training of graduate students, postdocs, and faculty, and at the same time conduct a market research of a specific commercialization project. Typically, after I-Corps support, people normally will apply for partnership for innovation, which we call PFI grant. Depending on which track you are going to use for this grant, you can either get a 250K or 600K. For technology development, so this one is not allowed for market research. It's only for technology development. After the PFI grant, the typical way for researchers to get more funding is from the SBIR, STTR phase 1 and phase 2 grants. And these grants are also for technology development. One thing I wanted to point out is that for academic researchers, like a faculty can serve as a PI of I-Corps team grant, can also serve as a PI for this PFI grant. But you cannot serve as the PI of SBIR, STTR grants. The PI for these grants, for the SBI, STTR grants, has to come from a company. So that means that things is a little bit more complicated than the I-Corps and the PFI grants, which means you are going to either start up a company or you have to collaborate with an existing company. Besides NSF, other federal funding agencies like NIH also has commercialization grants like SBI, STTR grants. After using this tax money here, which are free money, and most of the time you will still need more funding. Those funding will have to come from the private sources like angels and venture capitals. So that's funding. Next on the list is that which way you are going to use to move your product to the market. There are two ways. One is licensing, the other one is a startup. What's licensing? Licensing means Michigan Tech grants the IP rights of your invention to an existing company. And the license can be exclusive or non-exclusive. The company, which is called a licensee, pays a royalty to Michigan Tech. And you, as the inventor, are rewarded by Michigan Tech. There's a significant advantage of using licensing to commercialize your technology, which include no need of a startup, because a startup takes a lot of efforts and time and resources. So you don't need to spend that much time. And also as an inventor, you can be more focused on your research. The other method to move your product to the market is startup, which means you need a lot of efforts and a lot of resources. Because of that, you need to carefully reconsider all of the things I talked about, and many other things, which include market size, tech maturity, competitive advantages, the strength of your IP, the strength of your team, your commercialization team. You cannot do by yourself alone. And the capitals, profit margin, funding strategies, which is very important. And no matter how good your technology is, if you have a funding gap, everything falls apart. And the government regulations, and many more things. You need to think about that, because a startup, once you start, you really don't want to, you want to continue. The good news for startup is that you can have a lot of support. We have already talked about funding support from various levels. And besides funding, you also have other help from the community and the government. MTU, for example, the OIC can provide valuable advice. And the OIC also have residents in mentor in residence. One example is Stephen Tokers. They have a commercialization experience to help you. Beyond Michigan Tech, at the state, there is a unit called MEDC Smart Zone. They even can give you wet lab space with a reasonable cost, and many other things here in these resources. And the Michigan SBDC even can provide free one-to-one consultation and those kind of service to you. And it's funded by tax money. In addition, the investments from NSF, like ICORP's program, they also comes with other things like entrepreneurship training and advices. And the program officers of those programs are very successful entrepreneurs. So they will help you. And in addition, the angels and the VCs, once they put their money into your company, they will really want you to succeed. And as a result, they will provide other resources, such as market research and entrepreneurship training for you. So there's a lot of resources for startup. You are not alone. So hopefully my information is helpful for you. Here is a summary. After you have a marketable idea or better research products, the first thing I suggest you to do is to contact the OIC. And you will need to disclose your technology to Michigan Tech, which is a good thing rather than a bad thing. The OIC will help your commercialization projects in many, many ways. So that's good things. And I want to emphasize that market analysis is very important. And it's important to know that something is useful does not mean it is worth your efforts to commercialize it. You need to make money. That's the goal of commercialization. And in terms of IP strategies, there are different ways to know how, trade secret, and patents. And most of the time, and almost all the time, it is a combination of all these methods, not just one. And you will need more funding to commercialize the technology. And the funding can come from MTU, Michigan, the state of Michigan, federal government, and private funds. Down the road, you need to decide which way you are going to use to move your technology to the market, licensing or a startup. Licensing may require less effort, which is good, but some researchers might feel that startups are more aligned to their career goals.